My name is Violet Pierce, and at 68 years old, I never expected to be kicked out of my own house by my daughter-in-law, Amanda. When she screamed, "It's my house now, old woman," as she tossed my belongings onto the porch, I just smiled and kept walking. You see, I may be older, but I'm far from stupid. While Amanda was busy redecorating my home and plotting to sell it from under me, she never bothered to check one crucial detail about the mortgage papers. My name is on it. Only mine. Before I tell you how I turned the tables on the woman who tried to steal my home, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up for yourself when everyone thought you were defeated. I spent 40 years working as a librarian at the Oak Ridge Public Library. 4 decades surrounded by books, knowledge, and the wonderful people of our community. I loved every minute of it. The library was my second home, but my first home, well, that was special in ways I can hardly put into words. My husband James and I met when we were both 19 college freshmen with big dreams. He was studying architecture, and I was pursuing English literature. We married at 22 right after graduation, and James had this dream of building our own home one day. Not just buying a house, but actually building it with his own 2 hands. For the first 10 years of our marriage, we lived in a small apartment downtown, saving every penny. James worked at an architectural firm, and I had just started at the library. We ate a lot of pasta, skipped vacations, and put everything into our house fund. Everyone thought we were crazy, but we had a vision. When we finally found 5 acres of land with tall oak trees and a small creek running through it just outside the city limits, James cried. I still remember him standing there, tears in his eyes, saying, "This is it, Vi. This is where our forever home will be." It took James 3 years to build our house, working evenings and weekends. I was his assistant, learning to sand wood, paint walls, and even lay tile. The house wasn't enormous, about 2,000 square feet, but it was perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen for me, a workshop for James, and a library room with built-in shelves that he surprised me with on my 30th birthday. Our son Michael came along when we were in our early 30s. Growing up, that boy was the spitting image of his father, both in looks and temperament. Kind, hard-working, with a creative streak that had him building tree houses and model airplanes alongside James. Michael and I were close too. He inherited my love of books, and we'd spend hours discussing stories and ideas. He was a thoughtful child, always considerate of others' feelings. James passed away 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack. One minute we were planning our retirement trip to Europe, the next minute he was gone. 50 years together, and suddenly I was alone in the house that held every memory we'd ever made. Michael was my rock during that time. He visited every weekend, helped maintain the house, and made sure I wasn't drowning in my grief. Then Michael met Amanda. She came into his life 3 years ago. They met at the technology company where Michael works as a software engineer. Amanda was hired as the new marketing director. According to Michael, she walked into a meeting, locked eyes with him, and that was it. I remember how he gushed about her during our weekly Sunday dinners. "Mom, she's amazing. Smart, driven, beautiful. You're going to love her." The first time Michael brought Amanda to the house, I was impressed. She was indeed beautiful, with perfectly styled blonde hair, immaculate clothes, and a dazzling smile. She brought me an expensive bottle of wine and a bouquet of lilies. She asked all the right questions about my life, my career at the library, and complimented the house extensively. "This place is absolutely gorgeous, Violet," she said, running her hand along the oak banister that James had carved by hand. "You must be so proud of this home." "James built it," I told her, feeling that familiar pang of loss. "Every inch of it was his labor of love." "How incredible," she replied, and I noticed her eyes scanning the room, almost calculating. I dismissed the thought immediately. She was just admiring our home. Their courtship was whirlwind fast. Within 6 months of meeting, Michael proposed. The wedding was large and lavish, nothing like the simple ceremony James and I had. Amanda's parents paid for most of it, though I later learned they'd put themselves in debt to do so. Looking back, there were signs I should have paid attention to. The way Amanda spoke to the catering staff, how she seemed more concerned with how things appeared in photographs than enjoying the actual day. The way she subtly redirected Michael whenever he tried to include me in conversations. But Michael was happy, so I was happy for him. That's what mothers do. After the honeymoon, Michael mentioned that his company was expanding its overseas operations. They're asking me to travel more, Mom. Asia, Europe, sometimes for weeks at a time. I could see he was torn. He didn't want to leave me alone, but this was a big opportunity. Before I could tell him not to worry about me, Amanda spoke up. I've been thinking, she said, setting down her coffee cup precisely on its saucer. It doesn't make sense for us to pay rent on our apartment when Violet has all this space. We could move in here, keep Violet company, and help maintain the house. Michael's face lit up at the suggestion, but I felt a flutter of uncertainty in my stomach. This was my space, my sanctuary. James and I had created it together, and since his death I'd found my own rhythm here. But I could see how much the idea appealed to Michael. That's a generous offer, Amanda, I said carefully. But I wouldn't want to impose on newlyweds. You need your own space. Nonsense. Amanda waved a perfectly manicured hand. This house is huge. We'd have plenty of privacy in the master bedroom, and you could take the guest room. It makes financial sense, and we'd all benefit. She looked at Michael with a smile. And when we start having children, they'll grow up in their father's childhood home. Isn't that beautiful? Put like that, how could I refuse? The thought of grandchildren running through the house again was too tempting. So I agreed, and within 2 weeks, moving trucks were parked in the driveway. As they began unloading furniture that was much more modern and expensive-looking than anything I owned, I noticed Amanda directing the movers on where everything should go, including in the common areas of the house. She caught me watching and smiled. I hope you don't mind a few updates, Violet. I think it's time to breathe some new life into this place, don't you? That was the first moment I felt truly uneasy. But Michael looked so happy having his wife in his childhood home that I pushed the feeling aside. They were moving in, and I was hopeful this arrangement would work out for all of us. The changes started small, almost imperceptible at first. I'd come downstairs to find the living room furniture rearranged. The comfortable old sofa James and I had picked out together was suddenly pushed against a different wall. The antique coffee table was replaced with a sleek glass one from Amanda and Michael's apartment. Just trying some new arrangements, Amanda would say, with a bright smile if I mentioned the changes. Don't you think it opens up the space more? Then the family photos began to disappear. The gallery wall going up the staircase that had chronicled our family's life for decades was stripped bare one Tuesday while I was at my book club. When I returned, Amanda was hanging large abstract paintings in their place. Where are the family photos? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh, I put them in albums, Amanda replied, not looking up from her task. It's more organized that way, and these prints really brighten up the stairwell, don't you think? When I went looking for the albums later, I found our precious family photos stuffed in shoeboxes in the basement. Frames broken, some photos bent or scratched. I tried talking to Michael about it, but he was already being pulled between us. Mom Amanda's just trying to blend our styles. Change isn't always bad, right? And she's right that those old photos were collecting dust. Suddenly, my house didn't feel like my home anymore. I found myself retreating to my bedroom more and more, the only space that still felt like mine. But even that wasn't sacred for long. Violet, I've been thinking, Amanda said one morning over breakfast. Michael had left for a 3-day business trip the night before. The guest bedroom is really too small for you. All your books and things are so crowded in there. I'm quite comfortable, I replied, stirring my tea. The guest bedroom had been Michael's childhood room, and I'd moved in there when Amanda and Michael took over the master bedroom. It was cozy and had a lovely view of the backyard gardens. Well, I was thinking we could convert the library into a better space for you. It gets more sunlight, and we need the guest bedroom for when my parents visit. The library. James had built that room especially for me, with ceiling-high bookshelves and a window seat where I'd spent countless hours reading. I'd already compromised by giving them the master bedroom. The library stays as it is, I said firmly. And I'm not moving again. Amanda's smile tightened just slightly. We'll see what Michael thinks when he gets back. Sure enough, when Michael returned, he sided with Amanda. Mom, it makes sense. The library is bigger, and we do need a proper guest room. Amanda's parents might stay for a while when we have a baby." "When is that happening?" I asked, surprised. "Oh, not yet," Amanda said quickly. "But we're planning for the future." So I moved again, my books and personal belongings now sharing space with the library collection. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't what I'd wanted either. The next change was more concerning. I began noticing that Michael was traveling more frequently. What had started as occasional trips was becoming 2 weeks away, 1 week home, then gone again. Amanda worked from home most days, and she began inviting her friends over regularly. They would take over the living room, drinking wine and talking loudly as if I wasn't there. I overheard Amanda one afternoon as I was coming downstairs. "It's exhausting having her here all the time," Amanda was saying. "She has so many old people habits. The TV volume is always blasting, she makes the whole house smell like Ben Gay, and she's constantly hovering." Her friend laughed. "At least the house will be yours eventually. It must be worth a fortune on this land." "Michael's name isn't even on the deed yet," Amanda sighed. "His father left everything to Violet. We're working on convincing her to transfer ownership for tax purposes, you know." I froze on the stairs, my heart pounding. That was the first time I realized this wasn't just about redecorating or making space for guests. Amanda had her eyes on my home, the home James had built with his own hands. That night, I confronted her when Michael called from Singapore. "Amanda tells me you were eavesdropping on her private conversation today," Michael said, his voice tired from the time difference. "I wasn't eavesdropping," I protested. "I was coming downstairs and overheard her talking about getting me to transfer ownership of the house." "Michael, this is my home. Your father built it." "Mom," Michael sighed. "Amanda wasn't talking about taking your house. She was discussing estate planning. Her friend Jillian's husband is a financial advisor, and he mentioned that putting the house in a trust would be smart for tax reasons when you're no longer with us." His explanation sounded reasonable, but it didn't match the conversation I'd overheard. Still, Michael believed his wife, not me. The final straw came when Amanda started suggesting that at my age I might be happier in an assisted living community. "There's a beautiful one just 20 minutes away," she said one evening, sliding a glossy brochure across the dinner table. "They have book clubs, garden spaces, and you'd be surrounded by people your own age. Wouldn't that be nice?" I stared at the brochure, then at her. "This is my home, Amanda. I have no intention of leaving it." "We're just concerned about you being alone so much," she pressed. "Michael travels, I'm busy with work. What if you fell and no one was here to help?" "I'm 68, not 98, I said. "I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself." Later that night, I found Michael in his office and asked him directly, "Do you want me to leave my own home? The home your father built for us?" Michael looked uncomfortable. "Of course not, Mom. But Amanda's right that we should think about the future. Maybe not right now, but eventually." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own son was considering pushing me out of my home. A few days later, Amanda's friend Jillian came over. She was introduced as a financial expert who wanted to help organize our family finances. "It's important to have everything in order," Jillian said smoothly, "especially with property as valuable as this." They asked for all my financial documents, bank statements, the house deed, James's will. I made excuses and said I'd have to find them, but internally I was growing more alarmed. The next day, I returned from grocery shopping to find several boxes stacked in the hallway. Looking inside one, I saw my photo albums, winter clothes, and books from my personal collection. "What's this?" I asked Amanda, who was directing a young man carrying another box down from the library. "Just organizing," she said brightly. "We need to clear out some space in the library. Michael's company is going all remote, and he needs a proper home office. We're moving some of your things to the basement for now." I stood there, grocery bags still in my hands, watching as more of my life was boxed up without my permission, feeling like a stranger in the home I'd lived in for over 30 years. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, I came back early from my weekly bridge game because Margaret wasn't feeling well. The house was quiet, and I assumed Amanda was out. As I hung up my coat, I heard papers rustling in James's old office, which now served as a storage room since Amanda had claimed it wasn't functional enough for her taste. Quietly, I walked down the hall and pushed the partially open door. Amanda was sitting at James's desk, going through his financial papers, the ones I'd kept in his filing cabinet. Papers were spread across the desk, and she was taking photos of documents with her phone. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharper than I'd ever used with her. Amanda jumped, nearly dropping her phone. "Violet, you startled me." She quickly gathered the papers, attempting to organize them. "I was just helping organize these old files. There's so much paperwork here, and it's all mixed up." "Those are private documents," I said, stepping into the room. "And they were perfectly organized. Michael asked me to digitize some of the important house documents," she replied smoothly, "for safekeeping. You know how worried he is about fire or flood damage to paper records." It sounded plausible, but Michael had never mentioned this to me. "I'll take care of my own papers," I said, holding out my hand for the documents she was holding. Amanda hesitated, then handed them over with a tight smile. "I was only trying to help. No need to get defensive." That evening, when Michael called, I mentioned finding Amanda going through James's papers. "She was just trying to help Mom," Michael sighed. "We've talked about getting all those old documents organized and scanned. There's decades of paperwork in that office. Those are personal financial records, Michael. Your father's records. I don't need or want help organizing them." "Well, it wouldn't hurt to let Amanda help. She's very organized, and honestly, Mom, that office is a mess." Once again, Michael was taking Amanda's side without question. It was becoming a pattern, and a troubling one at that. The next day, I called my old friend Harriet, who had retired from her law practice a few years ago. We met for lunch at a small cafe downtown, far from my house, and Amanda's prying eyes. "Something's not right, Harriet," I explained after telling her everything. "I think Amanda is after my house." Harriet, always practical, asked the most important question first. "Whose name is on the deed, Violet?" "Mine. When James passed, everything transferred to me. We had a simple will, everything, to the surviving spouse." "And have you signed anything recently? Any papers Amanda or this financial advisor friend might have given you?" I shook my head. "No, but they've been asking for all my documents." And I found Amanda photographing papers from James's office. Harriet's expression grew serious. "Don't sign anything. Not a single piece of paper, no matter what they tell you it's for. And secure all your important documents immediately. Get a safe deposit box at the bank if you don't already have one." She explained that as long as my name was the only one on the deed, the house was legally mine. No one could sell it without my signature, not even Michael. Taking Harriet's advice, I went to the bank the next day and rented a safe deposit box. I gathered all the important documents from the house when Amanda was at a work lunch: the deed, James' will, our marriage certificate, insurance policies, and the mortgage papers showing the house was fully paid off and solely in my name. As I was gathering these documents, I discovered something troubling. Several of my recent bank statements were missing from the filing cabinet. I immediately called the bank and requested copies, asking them to send them to Harriet's address, not mine. When the statements arrived at Harriet's house a week later, I discovered unauthorized transfers from my savings account to a joint account I'd never opened. Small amounts, $100 or $200 at a time, but adding up to nearly $15,000 over the past year. I'd been so consumed with the house situation that I hadn't noticed the gradual drain on my savings. The bank confirmed that the joint account was in my name and Michael's, but I had never authorized it. Someone had forged my signature on the paperwork. Meanwhile, at home, things were getting worse. Amanda's hostility was no longer veiled. She would accidentally knock things over when I was around, blame me for misplacing items, and complain loudly on the phone to friends about living with an elderly relative. Then Michael announced he had to go overseas for 2 months to oversee a new project. "It's a big opportunity," he explained. "The company is expanding into the European market." 2 months is a long time, I said, glancing at Amanda, who was smiling sweetly. "You two will be fine," Michael assured me. "Amanda will take good care of you, Mom." The day after Michael left, Amanda threw a party. Dozens of people crowded into my home drinking, playing loud music, and treating the place like a nightclub. I stayed in my room door locked as strangers wandered the halls. The next morning, the house was a mess, with wine stains on the carpet James had installed, and cigarette burns on the wooden porch railings he had carved. When I complained, Amanda just laughed. "Lighten up, Violet. Life's too short to worry about a little mess." But it wasn't just the mess. It was the disrespect for my home, for James's craftsmanship for me. Things escalated from there. Amanda started having her friends over almost every night. They treated me like a servant, asking me to bring them drinks or snacks when I walked through the living room. One evening, I overheard Amanda talking to her friend Jillian in the kitchen. "The old lady is becoming a problem," Amanda was saying in a low voice. "She's getting suspicious, asking about bank statements." "You need to move faster," Jillian replied. "My husband says if you can get her declared incompetent, Michael would become her guardian and could sign the transfer documents himself." "I'm working on it," Amanda said. "I've been moving her things around, hiding them, then finding them for her, making her think she's forgetting things. I've also been switching her medications." I felt sick listening to them. They were gaslighting me, trying to make me question my own sanity, and tampering with my medication that explained why I'd been feeling so foggy some mornings. I began checking my pills carefully and pretended to take them while actually disposing of them. I also started acting slightly confused at strategic times, letting Amanda think her plan was working. If she thought I was becoming incompetent, maybe she'd let her guard down. I also began documenting everything. I kept a detailed journal which I stored at Harriet's house. I took photos of my belongings before leaving the house, so I could prove if things were moved. I installed a small camera in my bedroom, which revealed Amanda regularly searched through my things while I was out. The most shocking discovery came when I found a document in Amanda's home office printer tray. It was a letter to a neurologist, supposedly from me, describing symptoms of cognitive decline I'd never experienced. The signature at the bottom was a forgery of mine, but a good one. Amanda had been practicing. 6 weeks into Michael's overseas assignment, I had a doctor's appointment scheduled. Amanda knew about it because she had insisted on helping me manage my calendar. That morning, I told her I was leaving for my appointment. "Don't forget your insurance card this time," she said, with a condescending smile. "You left it at home last month and they had to call me to bring it." Another lie. I'd never forgotten my insurance card and the doctor's office had never called her, but I just nodded meekly and left. Instead of going all the way to the doctor's office, I drove around the block and parked down the street, then walked back to the house. Through the living room window, I could see Amanda pacing, talking on her phone. After about 15 minutes, a car pulled up. A man in a suit got out carrying a briefcase. Amanda welcomed him enthusiastically, and I recognized him immediately. He was a real estate agent who had sold the Johnson property down the street last year. My stomach dropped as I watched Amanda lead him through my house, gesturing grandly at features James had built. I waited until they were upstairs, then quietly entered through the back door. I could hear them talking as they came back down the staircase. "The property is extremely valuable," the agent was saying. 5 acres this close to the city with these mature trees and the creek. We could list at $750,000. Easily, maybe more." "Excellent," Amanda replied. "I want to move quickly. My husband will be back from overseas in a few weeks, and I'd like to have everything ready to go by then." "And the current owner? You mentioned an elderly relative." "My mother-in-law," Amanda said dismissively. "She's going into assisted living. Early-stage dementia. Very sad. My husband has power of attorney." I stepped into the entryway, making both of them freeze in surprise. "That's interesting," I said calmly. I wasn't aware I had dementia or that my son had power of attorney. The real estate agent looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Pierce, I thought you were at a care facility tour today." "As you can see, I'm not," I replied. "And I have no intention of selling my home or moving into assisted living." Amanda recovered quickly. "Violet, you're confused again. We discussed this. The house is too much for you to manage. Michael and I are helping you transition to somewhere more appropriate for someone your age." "I'm not confused, Amanda. and Michael never mentioned selling the house before he left. The real estate agent was looking between us, clearly sensing he was in the middle of a family dispute. Perhaps I should come back another time when everyone is on the same page. No need, Amanda said sharply. My mother-in-law is simply having one of her episodes. She forgets conversations we've had. The doctor says it's common with her condition. I don't have a condition, I stated firmly. And I'm calling Michael right now. I pulled out my cell phone, but Amanda grabbed my wrist, digging her nails in painfully. The real estate agent, seeing the situation deteriorate, excused himself hastily and left. As soon as his car pulled away, Amanda's face transformed with rage. You stupid old woman, she hissed. Do you have any idea how long I've been planning this, how hard I've worked? Planning what I asked, though, I already knew the answer. Getting this house, do you think I married Michael because I love him? He's boring and predictable just like his father probably was. But this property is worth a fortune, and I'm not going to let you ruin everything else. Her words stung worse than any physical pain could have. Poor Michael, married to a woman who saw him as nothing but a path to property ownership. The house isn't yours to sell, I told her. It's in my name. Only mine. Michael will sign whatever I tell him to sign, Amanda sneered. He's wrapped around my finger. And once we have you declared incompetent, it won't matter what your wishes are. I pulled away from her and went to call Michael, but discovered my phone service had been cut off. Amanda followed me, continuing her tirade. I've sacrificed 2 years of my life living in this outdated museum with you, watching my every move. I deserve this house. I know what to do with it, how to maximize its value. You're just wasting it, letting it sit here with all this land unused. I walked to the landline phone, but it was dead too. I had everything disconnected today, Amanda smirked. For your safety, of course. Elderly people are so vulnerable to scam calls. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. I needed to get to Harriet's house to use her phone to call Michael. Amanda blocked my path. Where do you think you're going? We're not finished here. Move aside, Amanda, I said, with more courage than I felt. It's my house now, old woman, she screamed, her face contorted with rage. I've earned it. I've put up with you and your pathetic memories, and your precious James for 2 years. She shoved me, not hard enough to knock me down, but enough to make me step back in shock. You have no right to be here anymore, she continued, her voice cold now. I want you gone by tonight. Pack whatever you can carry and leave. The rest will be disposed of. You can't evict me from my own home, I protested. Watch me, Amanda said. If you're not gone by the time I get back, I'll call the police and tell them you're trespassing. Who do you think they'll believe? The confused old lady or the concerned daughter-in-law? With that, she grabbed her purse and car keys and stormed out the front door. I stood in the entryway shaking. I needed to call Michael, but had no way to reach him without a phone. I decided to walk to my neighbor's house, but as I was gathering a few essentials, Amanda returned with 2 large men. These gentlemen will help you pack, she said with a cold smile. What followed was the most humiliating experience of my life. The men, who looked uncomfortable but did as Amanda directed, began boxing up my personal belongings. Not carefully, just throwing things in randomly. Books, clothing, toiletries, all mixed together. Meanwhile, Amanda stood supervising, pointing out what was trash and what I could keep. I tried to maintain my dignity as my life was literally being boxed up around me. When I attempted to take a small wooden jewelry box James had made for me, Amanda snatched it away. That stays with the house. It matches the decor. James made it for me, I protested. It has my wedding ring in it. You can have the ring, Amanda said, opening the box and dumping its contents into my palm. The box stays. 3 hours later, a dozen boxes sat on the front porch. Most of my clothes, some books, photo albums, and basic toiletries. Everything else Amanda had declared came with the house. Time for you to go, Amanda said, holding the front door open. I've called you a taxi. It should be here any minute. Where am I supposed to go? I asked. Amanda shrugged. Not my problem. A retirement home, perhaps. Isn't there a shelter for old people somewhere? I couldn't believe what was happening. Neighbors were beginning to peek out their windows, watching the spectacle of an elderly woman being evicted. My humiliation was complete when the taxi pulled up, and Amanda began carrying boxes to the curb. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked when I numbly got into the back seat. I gave him my sister Lucy's address. She lived about 30 minutes away, and we'd grown closer since James died. I hadn't told her about the troubles with Amanda not wanting to worry her, but I had nowhere else to go. As the taxi pulled away, I looked back at my beloved home. Amanda stood on the porch, arms crossed, a triumphant smile on her face. Behind her, through the open door, I could see the movers already taking down the family photos that had survived her earlier purges. The taxi driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay, ma'am? You're crying." I hadn't even realized tears were streaming down my face. "I just lost my home," I said quietly. At Lucy's house, I broke down completely as I told her everything. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the financial schemes, and finally the eviction. "She can't do that," Lucy exclaimed. "The house is yours." "She just did," I replied, feeling defeated. "And I have no way to contact Michael to tell him what's happened." That night I cried myself to sleep in Lucy's guest room, surrounded by hastily packed boxes containing the fragments of my life. I felt broken, betrayed not only by Amanda, but by my son who had failed to protect me. The physical symptoms of stress manifested as chest pains and a migraine that wouldn't subside. At 68 years old, I was effectively homeless, cast out of the home that James had built with love for our family. I woke up the next morning with swollen eyes and a heavy heart, but also with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I was done being Amanda's victim. James hadn't raised me to be a pushover, and I wasn't going to start now. Lucy brought me coffee in bed, her face concerned. "What can I do, Vi? Should we call the police?" I shook my head. "Not yet. First, I need to confirm something. Can you drive me to the county records office?" 2 hours later, we stood in the records department as a clerk pulled up the property records for my address. Just as I thought, the house was still solely in my name. There had been no transfers, no changes to the deed, no liens or claims against the property. "So she has no right to kick you out," Lucy said as we left the building. "That's breaking and entering or illegal eviction or something." "It's all of those things," I agreed. "But before we go to the police, I want to gather more evidence. Can we go to my bank next?" At the bank, I explained the situation to the manager, who was horrified. She helped me secure my accounts, flagging them for suspicious activity and requiring in-person verification for any withdrawals or transfers. She also confirmed what I suspected: someone had forged my signature to create the joint account with Michael. The bank opened a fraud investigation immediately. Our next stop was my safe deposit box, where I retrieved all the original documents I had secured there: the deed, mortgage papers showing the house was paid off, James's will, and our marriage certificate. I also had the original house plans that James had drawn, proving that every inch of that house had been his creation. "Now we need to call Harriet," I told Lucy. "I need legal advice." Harriet invited us to her home, where I spread out all my documentation on her dining room table. She examined everything carefully, taking notes and occasionally asking questions. "The law is clearly on your side, Violet," she finally said. "The house is yours solely and legally. Amanda has no right to be there without your permission, much less to evict you." "What about Michael?" I asked. "His name isn't on the deed, but it's his childhood home." "Michael has no more legal right to the house than Amanda does," Harriet explained. "Unless you've signed something giving him ownership or power of attorney, which you haven't." "So what do we do?" Lucy asked. "Call the police, get a lawyer." Harriet thought for a moment. "Let's start with a formal cease and desist letter from an attorney. I know several good ones who handle elder abuse cases, which is exactly what this is." While Harriet made calls, my phone rang. It was Michael, finally returning my calls to his international number. "Mom, what's going on?" "Amanda says you had some kind of breakdown and left the house. She's really worried about you." I took a deep breath. "Michael, Amanda is lying to you. She brought a real estate agent to the house while I was supposedly at a doctor's appointment. She's planning to sell our home. When I confronted her, she kicked me out. Literally put my belongings in boxes and had me taken away in a taxi." There was silence on the other end of the line. That can't be right, he finally said. Amanda wouldn't do that. She said you've been confused lately, forgetting things. She said you got upset and left on your own. She's been gaslighting me for months, Michael. Moving my things, hiding them, even tampering with my medication to make me seem confused. I have proof. She admitted everything when she thought no one was listening. I could hear the doubt in his voice as he responded. Mom, that sounds, I don't know, paranoid. Amanda loves that house. She's been talking about raising our children there. She loves the property value, not the house. I corrected him. Ask her about the real estate agent from Valley Properties who was there yesterday. Ask her why she told him I have dementia and that you have power of attorney. Ask her where my furniture is going because she's been selling it piece by piece. Michael was quiet again. I'll talk to her, he finally said. Get to the bottom of this. Where are you staying? I hesitated, suddenly unsure if I should tell him. If he was still believing Amanda, he might tell her where to find me. I'm safe, I said instead. I'll contact you when I have a lawyer involved. After hanging up, I felt drained but determined. Michael might not believe me yet, but I had truth on my side. The attorney can see you tomorrow morning, Harriet announced, returning to the dining room. In the meantime, I've been doing some research on Amanda. She placed her laptop in front of me. On the screen was a news article from 5 years ago showing a younger Amanda with a different last name standing next to an elderly man. Gerald Hoffman, age 82, married his caretaker Amanda Wilson, age 28, in a private ceremony last week, I read aloud. 6 months later, he changed his will to leave everything to his new wife. 3 months after that, he died of a heart attack. I looked up at Harriet in shock. This is Amanda. She's done this before. Harriet nodded grimly. And that's not all. Keep reading. I scrolled through more articles. Amanda had been investigated for elder financial abuse but was never charged due to lack of evidence. After Gerald Hoffman died, she walked away with his house and substantial investments. A year later, she changed her name from Wilson to Carter and moved to our city. She's a predator, Lucy whispered, targeting vulnerable seniors for their property. Not just seniors, Harriet added, showing us another article. She was briefly married to a man named David Spencer. Young guy inherited a valuable piece of commercial property from his grandfather. They divorced after 18 months, and she got the property in the settlement. I felt sick. Michael was just another target. She probably researched him, found out about our house. We need to find David Spencer, Lucy suggested. He might have information that could help us. Through social media, we located David Spencer, living in a city about 2 hours away. I called him, introduced myself, and briefly explained the situation. Amanda Carter, he said, his voice immediately tense. Blonde, about 5'6", always perfectly dressed. That's her, I confirmed. Though she goes by Amanda Pierce now, my son's wife. David let out a low whistle. Lady, your son is in trouble. That woman is a con artist. She took me for everything I had. He agreed to meet with us the next day after my appointment with the attorney. Before ending the call, he said something that gave me my first real spark of hope. I've got documentation from my divorce that might help you. Financial records emails where she basically admits she married me for my property. I couldn't use it in court because my idiot lawyer missed the filing deadline, but you're welcome to it. The next morning, the attorney, Elizabeth Chen, reviewed all my documents and listened to my story without interruption. When I finished, she nodded decisively. This is elder abuse, plain and simple. Financial exploitation, psychological abuse, and now illegal eviction. We're going to file for an emergency injunction to remove Amanda from your property immediately. What about Michael? I asked. He's my son. I don't want to evict him. Michael isn't the one who kicked you out of your own home, Elizabeth reminded me gently. And from what you've told me, he's been enabling Amanda's behavior, whether knowingly or not. She drafted the cease and desist letter on the spot, informing Amanda that she was illegally occupying my property and had 24 hours to vacate or face legal action. She also included notification that criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse were being considered. We'll have this delivered by courier today, Elizabeth said. Now let's talk about next steps. As we were discussing strategy, my phone rang. It was Michael again. Mom, he said, his voice different now, uncertain. I just got off a video call with our neighbor, Mrs. Gallagher. She showed me footage from her security camera. I saw the movers, saw Amanda supervising while they put your things on the porch. He paused. Why would Amanda do this? What's going on? I took a deep breath. Michael, I need you to come home. Not to the house, but to Lucy's place. There are things you need to see. I'm already on my way, he said. I got an emergency flight as soon as Mrs. Gallagher called me. I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. With Michael on his way and legal proceedings beginning, I felt my confidence growing. But there was one more thing I wanted to do before confronting Amanda directly. I want to sell the house, I announced to Lucy and Harriet over dinner that evening. They both looked at me in surprise. But Vi, we're fighting to get your house back, Lucy said. Why would you sell it? Because it's not my home anymore, I said sadly. Amanda has tainted it with her schemes and lies. Every room would remind me of her betrayal and Michael's failure to protect me. I want to sell it on my terms, get its full value, and start fresh. Are you sure? Harriet asked gently. That house means so much to you. All those memories with James. James isn't in the house, I said, surprised to find I truly believed it. He's in my heart. He always will be. But that house is just a structure now, and it's time to let it go. The next morning, I called a real estate developer who had left his card in my mailbox several times over the past few years. Harold Weinstein had been interested in my property for a planned community he wanted to build, offering well above market value. Mrs. Pierce, he greeted me warmly when I called. I was just thinking about your property recently. Still not interested in selling? Actually, Mr. Weinstein, I might be now. Would you be available to view the property today? Harold was delighted and agreed to meet me at the house that afternoon. I called Elizabeth to update her on my plan, and she advised bringing a law enforcement officer with me for the confrontation with Amanda. I have a contact at the sheriff's department, she said. Deputy Rogers handles a lot of our elder abuse cases. She can meet you there. By 2:00 that afternoon, I was ready. Deputy Rogers, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, waited in her patrol car at the end of my driveway. Harold Weinstein and his assistant waited in their vehicle. Lucy, Harriet, and I pulled up last. Are you ready for this, Violet? Harriet asked, squeezing my hand. I nodded. I had spent my life being kind and accommodating. It was time to stand up for myself. As we approached the front door of my house, I noticed new curtains in the windows and a different welcome mat on the porch. Amanda had wasted no time making more changes. I rang the doorbell, feeling strangely like a visitor at my own home. Amanda opened the door, her welcoming smile freezing, when she saw me standing there with Lucy, Harriet, Deputy Rogers, and Harold Weinstein behind me. Violet, she said, recovering quickly. I'm so glad you're okay. We've been worried sick about you. May we come in? I asked politely. Amanda's eyes darted to the deputy's uniform. Of course, she said, stepping back. This is still your home, too. Not too, I corrected her as we entered. This is my home. Only mine. Amanda laughed nervously. Well, technically the house belongs to the family. Michael and I are family. Actually, Deputy Rogers interrupted, according to county records. This property is solely owned by Violet Pierce. No other names are on the deed. Amanda's smile tightened. There must be some mistake. Michael and I have been paying the property taxes and utilities. Paying bills doesn't grant ownership, Deputy Rogers said. Mrs. Pierce, would you like to continue? I introduced Harold Weinstein. Mr. Weinstein is a real estate developer who's interested in purchasing my property. Amanda's eyes widened. You can't sell without Michael's permission. He's flying home right now to sort this all out. I don't need anyone's permission, I said calmly. The house is mine to sell as I see fit. This is ridiculous, Amanda snapped, her pleasant facade crumbling. You're confused. You've been having memory problems. Michael and I have been taking care of you. By forging my signature on bank documents, I asked. By tampering with my medication. By telling a real estate agent I have dementia. Amanda's face paled slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Harold cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should look around the property while you sort this out. I'm particularly interested in the acreage and the creek. Go right ahead, I told him. Lucy will show you around outside. As Lucy led Harold and his assistant out the back door, I turned back to Amanda. I've documented everything I said. The financial fraud, the forgery, the psychological abuse. The bank is investigating the unauthorized transfers from my accounts. I have recordings of you admitting your plans to have me declared incompetent. You're lying, Amanda hissed, but I could see fear in her eyes. I've already filed a police report, Deputy Rogers added. And Mrs. Pierce's attorney has submitted evidence of elder abuse to the district attorney's office. Amanda turned to me, suddenly switching tactics. Violet, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I was only trying to help manage things while Michael was away. If I overstepped, I apologize sincerely. We're family. We should work this out privately. We're not family, I said quietly. You married my son as part of a scheme to get this property. Just like you married Gerald Hoffman. Just like you married David Spencer. Amanda went completely still. I don't know who you're talking about. Gerald Hoffman, your elderly husband, who died conveniently after changing his will in your favor. David Spencer, who lost his inherited property to you in a divorce settlement. We've talked to David, by the way. He's very interested in helping with the investigation into your pattern of fraud. Amanda's composure cracked. You stupid old woman. You have no proof of anything. Actually, we have quite a lot of proof, Harriet said, speaking for the first time. Bank records, forged documents, witness statements from neighbors who saw you evict Violet, security camera footage, recordings of your conversations planning to have Violet declared incompetent. Should I continue? The front door opened, and Michael walked in looking exhausted from his long flight. He stopped short, taking in the scene. His mother, his wife, his aunt, and a sheriff's deputy, standing in a tense circle in the living room. What's going on? He asked. Amanda cried, rushing to him. Thank God you're home. Your mother has lost her mind. She's brought the police and is threatening me. She's trying to sell the house without telling us. Michael gently disentangled himself from Amanda's embrace. I saw the security footage from Mrs. Gallagher, Amanda. I saw you supervising while Mom was thrown out of her own house. I can explain that, Amanda said quickly. She was having a mental health crisis. She was a danger to herself. I was trying to get her to a safe place while you were gone. By putting her belongings in boxes and sending her away in a taxi, Michael asked, without telling me. I was going to tell you, but I didn't want to worry you during your important business trip. Michael turned to me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have seen what was happening. You should have, I agreed. But right now we have more immediate concerns. On cue, Lucy returned with Harold Weinstein. His face was flushed with excitement. Mrs. Pierce, I've seen enough. The property is even more perfect than I remembered. The creek placement is ideal for the community center I'm planning, and those mature oaks would be the centerpiece of the neighborhood park. I'm prepared to make an offer right now. You can't be serious, Amanda interrupted. This is our family home. It's not for sale. Harold looked confused. I was told Mrs. Pierce is the owner and wishes to sell. She is, and I do, I confirmed. What's your offer, Mr. Weinstein? Harold named a figure that made even Deputy Rogers raise her eyebrows. It was nearly double what the house would sell for on the regular market. That property is worth much more than that, Amanda protested, unable to help herself. The land alone with the creek, and the proximity to downtown. So you do know quite a bit about real estate values, I noted. Just like you knew about Gerald Hoffman's property value and David Spencer's commercial lot. Amanda turned to Michael, desperation in her eyes. Michael, you can't let her do this. This is our future, our children's inheritance. We don't have children, Amanda, Michael said quietly. We've been married 3 years, and every time I bring up starting a family, you have a reason to wait. Was that part of the plan too? String me along until you had the property, then leave? Amanda's face contorted with rage. She turned to me, jabbing a finger in my direction. This is all your fault. You turned him against me with your lies. I didn't need to lie, I replied calmly. The truth was damning enough. I turned to Harold. I accept your offer, Mr. Weinstein. My attorney will contact yours to draw up the paperwork. Excellent, Harold beamed, shaking my hand. I'll have my team start the preliminary surveys next week with your permission. You can't do this, Amanda shrieked. I've worked too hard, planned too carefully. She lunged for her purse on the side table, but Deputy Rogers was faster, stepping between Amanda and whatever she was reaching for. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down, the deputy said firmly. Amanda ignored her, turning to Michael one last time. Michael, if you love me, if you ever loved me, you'll stop this. You'll tell them I'm your wife and this is our home. Michael looked at her sadly. It was never our home, Amanda. It was my mother's home that we were guests in. And I'm not sure I ever really knew you at all. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Deputy Rogers answered it, admitting Elizabeth Chen, my attorney, and a man I didn't recognize. Mrs. Pierce? I have the emergency injunction ordering Amanda Pierce to vacate the premises immediately. Elizabeth announced, handing a document to Deputy Rogers. And this is Detective Johnson from the Financial Crimes Unit. He has some questions for Mrs. Amanda Pierce regarding the unauthorized bank accounts and forged documents. Amanda's face went from flushed with anger to deathly pale. She looked from Michael to me to the detective, realizing her schemes had completely unraveled. I want my lawyer, she said, her voice suddenly small. That's your right, Detective Johnson agreed. We can continue this conversation downtown. As Deputy Rogers and Detective Johnson led Amanda out to the police car, I turned to Michael. I'm selling the house, I told him directly. I've made my decision. He nodded, looking around at the home where he'd grown up. I understand. It's your house, your choice. He paused. Where will you go? I'm looking at a cottage near Lucy. It's small, but it has a lovely garden and a sunroom perfect for my books. Michael's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have seen what she was doing. Yes, you should have, I agreed, not willing to let him off the hook entirely. But you didn't want to see it. You believed what was convenient, not what was true. Can you ever forgive me? He asked. I'm working on it, I told him honestly. But it will take time, and things will never be quite the same between us. As everyone filed out of the house, I took one last look around. Despite Amanda's changes, I could still see James in every corner, every doorframe, every floorboard. But it was time to let go. I locked the door behind me, knowing that the next time I entered it would be to remove the last of my belongings before turning the keys over to Harold Weinstein and his development company. The house would be gone, but the memories and my newfound strength would remain. 3 months after the confrontation with Amanda, I stood in the sunlit kitchen of my new cottage, arranging a bouquet of fresh daisies from my garden. The cottage was nothing like my old house, and that was exactly what I wanted. Where the house had been spacious and full of memories, both wonderful and painful, the cottage was cozy and represented my fresh start. The legal aftermath of Amanda's schemes had been exhausting, but necessary. She was charged with multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and elder financial abuse. The evidence against her was substantially bolstered by David Spencer's records and testimony. The investigation also uncovered 2 other victims before Gerald Hoffman, establishing a clear pattern of predatory behavior. Michael had moved into an apartment downtown. Our relationship was strained but healing slowly. He came for dinner once a week, and we were carefully rebuilding trust. He had filed for divorce from Amanda, a process complicated by her legal troubles but proceeding steadily. The garden looks beautiful, Vi Lucy said, joining me in the kitchen. She lived just 3 streets over, close enough to visit daily, but not so close that we lost our independence. The roses are finally taking root, I replied, smiling. James always said it takes at least 1 full season for roses to really claim their space. The sale of the house had closed quickly, with Harold Weinstein paying cash. The proceeds gave me financial security I'd never imagined. After setting aside money for my future needs, I donated to the local library and established a small foundation for victims of elder abuse. The cottage had required some renovations to make it perfect for me. I'd had the bathroom modified with safety features, the kitchen redesigned for easier use, and the backyard transformed into a manageable garden. The most important addition was the sunroom lined with bookshelves and featuring a comfortable window seat reminiscent of the library James had built, but distinctly my own space. My social life had blossomed unexpectedly. I'd joined a book club at the local bookstore, volunteered at a community garden, and even started taking a watercolor class at the senior center. After years of defining myself primarily as James's wife and Michael's mother, I was discovering who Violet Pierce was on her own terms. The healing wasn't immediate or easy. For weeks after moving into the cottage, I would wake in the night disoriented and missing the familiar sounds of my old home. I had moments of intense grief, not just for the house, but for the relationships that had been damaged. There were days I could barely get out of bed, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what I'd lost. But gradually, those days became less frequent. I developed new routines, made new friends, created new traditions. The painful knot in my chest when I thought of Amanda's betrayal and Michael's blindness began to loosen. One bright Saturday in autumn, I hosted a housewarming party in my fully settled cottage. Friends from my library days, neighbors from both my old and new neighborhoods, Harriet, Lucy, and yes, Michael, gathered in my garden and sunroom, celebrating not just my new home but my renewed spirit. As we sat enjoying coffee and pie, Harriet raised her cup in a toast. "To Violet," she said, "who taught us all that it's never too late to stand up for yourself." The group echoed the sentiment, and I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the afternoon sunshine. Later, as guests were leaving, Michael lingered behind. "Mom, I brought something for you," he said, handing me a small wooden box. I recognized it immediately. It was the jewelry box James had made for me, the one Amanda had refused to let me take. "How did you get this?" I asked, running my fingers over the polished wood. "I found it in Amanda's closet," Michael explained. "She had hidden a lot of your things. I've been finding them and setting them aside for you." I opened the box, expecting it to be empty, but inside was my wedding ring, the one I thought lost forever. "Thank you," I said, simply slipping the ring onto my right hand rather than my left, a symbolic acknowledgement that while I would always love James, our chapter together was complete, and this new chapter was mine alone. After Michael left, I sat in my sunroom as the setting sun cast a golden glow across my bookshelves. The cottage was quiet, peaceful, in a way my old house hadn't been for years. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, from the young woman who helped James build our dream home to the librarian who raised a son there, to the widow who fought to protect what was hers, to the independent woman who chose to start anew. The most valuable lesson I'd learned wasn't about legal deeds or property rights. It was about self-worth. For too long, I had diminished myself to accommodate others. I had silenced my instincts when they warned me about Amanda. I had tolerated disrespect to keep the peace with my son. I had allowed myself to be made small in the very home where I should have felt largest. But it's never too late to reclaim your space in the world. Never too late to set boundaries. Never too late to demand respect. The people who truly love you will adjust. Those who don't, well, they were never really on your side to begin with. Home, I realized, isn't a structure built of wood and stone, no matter how lovingly crafted. Home is the sense of security you carry within yourself, the knowledge that you are enough exactly as you are. I had lost a house but found myself, and that was a trade worth making. As I sat there, I wondered how many others were suffering in silence, diminishing themselves to keep the peace. How many were ignoring their instincts, dismissing red flags, allowing themselves to be made small by those who claimed to love them. If you're watching this and nodding in recognition, know that you're not alone. It's never too late to stand up for yourself, to reclaim your power, to start again. If this 68-year-old librarian could do it, so can you. What boundaries do you need to set in your life? Have you ever had to start over when everyone thought you were defeated? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more stories of resilience and renewal, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own strength. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, the greatest power comes from knowing your own worth.